In chapter 10, you learned about depreciation. So there's three different depreciation methods. We have the straight line method, the units of activity method, and the declining balance method. Let's first look at the straight line method. So to calculate your depreciation expense in the straight line method, we take our cost minus the salvage value to get our depreciable cost. And then we take that depreciable cost and we divide it by our useful life in years to get our annual depreciation expense. Under units of activity, we're going to start off a similar way. We start off with cost minus salvage to get our depreciable cost. But then it changes up a bit. We take that depreciable cost and we divide it by the total units of activity in that asset's life. And that's going to get us a depreciable cost per unit. Then we take that depreciable cost per unit and multiply it by the units of activity during this 1 year, and that will get you your depreciation expense. For the declining balance method, it's a little bit different. We start off by taking cost minus accumulated depreciation to get our book value. Then your textbook says you take the book value and you multiply it by double the straight line rate. Well, that's the same thing as your book value times 2 over the number of useful years. And then that will equal your depreciation expense. So let's work through an example. Mazzanotti Co. purchased equipment on November 1st, 2019. The equipment cost $40,000 and has a salvage value of $2,000. Its expected useful life is 5 years and 10,000 working hours. In 2019, the equipment was used for 300 hours, and in 2020, the equipment was used for 2,800 hours. So we need to calculate the depreciation expense for 2019 and 2020 under each depreciation method. So there's a few pieces that we can take from this problem that's going to help us figure out our depreciation expense. First is our cost. So we look to see how much did this equipment originally cost, and we see that's $40,000. Then it's salvage value. At the end of its life, what could we sell this equipment for? That's $2,000. Its life in years is 5 years, and its life in units is 10,000 hours. So now we can work on calculating our depreciation expense. Let's start off with straight line. So we start off with cost minus salvage equals depreciable cost. So our cost is $40,000. We subtract out the $2,000 salvage, and our depreciable cost is $38,000. Then we take that depreciable cost, divide it by its useful life in years to get its annual depreciation expense. So 38,000 divided by 5 is 7,600 as your annual depreciation expense. However, in 2019, we didn't have this equipment for the entire year. We purchased it on November 1st. So we only had it for 2 months. So we take 7,600 times 2 over 12. So our depreciation expense in 2019 is $1,266.67. In 2020, we have it for the full year, so its depreciation expense that year is $7,600. Now units of activity. Again, we start off with cost minus salvage. So we find our depreciable cost to be $38,000. Now we take that depreciable cost and we divide it by its total units of activity in its life. So 38,000 divided by the 10,000 hours in its life, and we will be depreciating at $3.80 per hour. So in 2019, tells us that the equipment was used for 300 hours. So $3.80 times 300 equals 1,140. In 2020, we used this equipment for 2,800 hours. So 3.80 times 2,800 equals 10,640. You'll notice we didn't have to take 2/12 of our 2019 depreciation amount. That's because under units of activity, it doesn't matter how long you've had this equipment for. What matters is how much you used this equipment during that time. Now our declining balance method. We want to take our book value and multiply it by 2 over the number of useful years. Well, remember, our book value is cost minus accumulated depreciation. So for our first year here, we haven't depreciated our equipment yet. So our cost minus accumulated depreciation is still just 40,000 multiplied by 2 over 5 to get an annual depreciation expense of 16,000. So 2019's depreciation, we need to take that 16,000, multiply it by 2 over 12 because we've only had it for 2 months. So we find out that our depreciation is $2,666.67. Now, when we need to do this for 2020, we need to find our new book value. So our new book value is 40,000 minus our accumulated depreciation, so our depreciation amount from the previous year, and then we multiply that book value by 2 over 5 once again to get our depreciation expense of that 14,933. So 2020's depreciation, since we had it for the full year in 2020, it's the full 14,000 amount. So here's all of our depreciation expense amounts under straight line, units of activity, and declining balance. Declining balance is going to depreciate more at the beginning, at the start of an asset's life. So you're going to have more depreciation in the early years under declining balance. Straight line is the same amount each year as long as it's been a full year, right? So if we had it for all of 2019, we would see that our straight line depreciation amount was $7,600 for both 2019 and 2020. Units of activity can fluctuate, right? It's all based off of how much you use that equipment in that year.